Young Americans, the title track that opens Bowie's ninth studio album, repeats the formula that his previous albums have set for opening tracks. It describes a crisis, and contains the beginning of the answer on how to overcome this crisis, an answer which he develops throughout the album. The crisis is always both personal and collective, since Bowie has turned his image into a reflection of the youth culture of the day. What is the crisis this time? Well, it is a crisis that the last album, Diamond Dogs, actually failed to resolve. The Ziggy Stardust album presented a solution to a happy life, after the opening track dramatized the crisis of realizing that we cannot provide meaning to our life by striving for a utopian future, in a world where it isn't even certain that the future exists. Instead, Ziggy gave us happiness in the here and now, achieved by opening yourself up to an alien culture and synthesizing elements of it with your own cultural background. This synthesis takes you out of your world, and thus you achieve transcendence, resulting in a joyful, ecstatic feel. It also results in a feeling of unity and love with those who share that feeling. This joy is temporary, and eventually you come down when the synthesis no longer feels alien, but then you can simply synthesize with another alien, and so forth. This seemed like a plan for a life of happiness, but the Diamond Dogs brought it to a screeching halt. The opening track of that album, in its symbolic way, spoke of a world confined in its boundaries, with no life outside. Hence, it has no aliens that can come from without and offer something else, no way to form that synthesis that generates ecstasy. This futuristic allegory hints that rock and roll had exhausted its options, that it no longer has ways to regenerate itself. It has been copulating with aliens since the 50s, and now, finally, it reached a dead end. The following tracks offer a solution. Rearrange the ingredients of your world in a new rebellious way, and thus create the alien effect. Happiness is restored for a while, but then, the album comes to a startling realization. There are powers in this world that seek to exploit our rebellion, and take over our society. And our society is susceptible to these powers, since most people still think in terms of creating a perfect future world, and are easily seduced by the revolutionary dreams offered to them by these powers. By the end of the album, this leads to a totalitarian dictatorship, and shows Bowie's turnaround. While in 1972 he believed that rock and roll is a liberating force, by 1974 he came to believe that it has lost its spirit, and has essentially become a zombie that can be manipulated by authoritarian forces. In subsequent interviews, Bowie would predict the rise of fascism in the West, and would claim that rock music would play a part in aiding and abetting this rise. So Bowie found himself in yet another dead-end street, and as an artist, all he could do was be a reflection of this dystopian future he envisioned. In mid-1974 he came to America to put on a grandiose show that brought this world to life, and succeeded in dazzling the American audiences. But there, in the US, he encountered a new alien, something that could lift him out of the dead world of rock, and set him on a new joyful path. That alien was soul music. Soul music was born in the mid-50s, along with rock and roll. Just as young white artists were combining black rhythm and blues with forms of white pop to create the rock and roll explosion, young black artists were synthesizing secular rhythm and blues with religious gospel music to create soul. In soul music, the fervor of gospel remains, but instead of the ecstasy of religious devotion, the lyrics described sexual pleasures. Deemed sacrilegious by the older black folks, it took time to take hold, but by the beginning of the 60s, it became the main sound of black pop. In Detroit, the Motown company toned down the ecstasy and wrapped it up in beautiful productions to create an infectious form of pop music that by the middle of the decade came to dominate the charts. Calling itself the sound of young America, Motown was beloved by black and white youth alike, and was a symbol for black integration in American society. Meanwhile, soul took deeper meanings. Since the mid-50s, the civil rights movement was demanding the end of discrimination against black Americans and the change of American consciousness to respect the black people. The movement was led by preachers and fueled at first by gospel music, the music that has always used the Holy Scriptures, especially the story of Exodus, as an allegory for the African American yearn for freedom and equality. Gospel promised salvation in the distant future, but in the 50s, it spilled from the churches to the streets, demanding it here and now. This gave it a secular dimension, and this mix of religious righteous fervor and secular activism was better manifested in soul. By the mid-60s, soul music dug deeper into its gospel roots, becoming more powerful. Soul was now the beating heart of black music, drawing blood from gospel, jazz, blues, doo-wop, and R&B, and pumping itself back into them. It also drew from psychedelic rock and its revolutionary spirit. But while psychedelic rock spoke in universal terms, psychedelic soul largely left behind the universal language of gospel, and became more Afrocentric. With the advent of funk, which emphasized rhythm and other musical traits that were considered black, soul music started to drift away from rock and roll, after a decade of mutual development. It was no longer about gaining respect as equals and showing that we are all the same beneath our skin color, but about finding pride in your black identity and embracing it. And so, in the late 60s, black American politics drifted away from the non-violent, equality-based rhetoric of Martin Luther King into something more militant, and in some cases became radically anti-white. The establishment's reaction was, shall we say, unfavorable, and the ultimate outcome was that all 60s hopes were dashed. Equality was not achieved, life was not made better, and black consciousness fell back into despair. In the early 70s, the leading form of black music was still the funky psychedelic soul of the late 60s, but the mood was the blues, and the soul was ailing. In the years 71 to 74, artists like Marvin Gaye, Curtis Mayfield, Stevie Wonder, Donny Hathaway, Sly and the Family Stone, The Temptations, and others produced records that were shattering in their stark realism, expressing the sense of failure and desperation in the black mind. Just as Bowie and others were singing about the collapse of the 60s dream from a white perspective, they were doing the same thing from theirs. But that, for Bowie, is what made a way out possible. On the one hand, soul music drifted so far away from rock that they became aliens to one another, and could therefore serve as a thing that would take each other to another world. On the other hand, there was now common ground for white and black youth, a common ground that could link them together again. The time has come for a new synthesis, a synthesis that would save both cultures and bring back the promise of Motown, be the current sound of Young America. Hence, Young Americans.
But pulled in just behind the bridge, he lays her down. He frowns, gee, my life's a funny thing. Am I still too young? He kissed her then and there. She took his ring, took his babies. It took him minutes, took her nowhere. Heaven knows he'd have taken anything. All night. She wants a young American. The young American.
The first verse and chorus go back to a familiar Bowie theme, meaninglessness in existence. But there is a difference. In the past, he usually focused on one protagonist who felt that his or her life was meaningless. Here, there are two protagonists, a boy and a girl, as Young Americans is going to be a we album. We've encountered songs with a boy and a girl before, like So Love, but they weren't the protagonists, they were characters that the protagonist was watching and envying. In So Love, the love between the boy and girl was seen as a way to escape the meaninglessness of existence, and the lament was due to the fact that he knew that love was a temporary thing, and does not provide a permanent solution. Here, we once again have a temporary relationship, but here we don't even have love. The boy and the girl are going through the motions of relationship and lovemaking, but it is meaningless throughout, and all they get from it are brief sexual pleasures, and then a lifetime to pay for it, as she gets knocked up. And so, even the solution proposed by Ziggy Stardust, a solution based on a lifestyle where we find meaning by moving from one love to the other, and thus remaining in love, is here seen as empty. We've seen that already in Sweet Thing, and here we see it again. These youngsters experience brief sexual encounters, seemingly following Ziggy's advice of moving from one love to the other, but since they don't know how to find love, they fail to find the happiness he was singing about. When the girl wants the young American, she wants his body for sex, and nothing more. Behind the Fridge was the name of a comedy sketch show, staged in the early 70s by the British comedy duo Peter Cook and Dudley Moore. The two first got together in the early 60s to create Beyond the Fringe, a satirical show that took West End and Broadway by storm, becoming one of the symbols of the iconoclastic spirit of the 60s. The name Behind the Fridge is a tongue-in-cheek nod to that show, but it wasn't as popular, and marked the end of the partnership. Bowie invokes it probably as a symbol for how that 60s spirit was no longer with us.
Standing right through the picture window, she finds a slinky vagabond. He coughs as he passes a Ford Mustang. Heaven forbid she take anything, but the freak and his rifle for nothing. This is a step and cuts his hand, showing nothing. It swoops like a song. She cries, "Where have all Papa's heroes gone?"
The girl is scanning life, turning to self-reflection to try to find out what is wrong with her life. In the first verse, she would have taken anything. Any man who wants to have sex with her is welcomed, just so she can feel something for a while. But now, suddenly, she changes and ignores the hints of the passing vagabond. Heaven forbid she'll take anything. From now on, she decides, she will take only something meaningful. The vagabond freak is probably an aging hippie, a remnant of that generation that tried to change the world, but by now we know that it was all for nothing. The hippies failed, and the girl doesn't want to go down that road again. The vagabond trips and injures himself, but displays no pain or emotions, hinting that he is probably a junkie. A sad ending to what was once a lively expression of humanity. It makes the girl realize that all the heroes of yesteryear are gone, that she has no role models to follow, and she has to find her own way.
All the way from Washington, her breadwinner begs off the bathroom floor. We live for just these 20 years. Do we have to die for the 50 more? All right, he wants the young America. Young America, so young America. He wants the young America. All right, but he wants the young America.
The girl, then, no longer wants to play the game of meaningless brief encounters, and looks for something more substantial. The boy, however, is not ready for that. He is still in the mind that stability and maturity mean death, and thinks that committing to something more substantial means that he will have to commit to it for life. He tries to convince her to keep up the current arrangement. It's not certain, but what might be happening here is that he is trying to convince her to get an abortion. The mention of Washington, the nation's capital, hints that the couple's problem stands for the problems of all young Americans.
Do you remember your President Nixon? Do you remember the bills you have to pay, or even yesterday?
Bowie now speaks to all young Americans, describing them as floating in a rootless state. In his previous albums, he described contemporary existence as having no future, but now he shows that he doesn't even have a past. The kids have troubles remembering yesterday, or President Nixon, who resigned just a few days before this song was recorded. This is the price of the life he advocated, the life of frequent changes. You lose your past, lose your roots.
Have you been on America? Just you and your idol cymbal set so loud. Leather everywhere, and not a myth left from the ghetto.
Bowie invokes some youth folk heroes from the past, from black soul and white rock and roll, but it's all in the past now. These heroes are not heroes anymore, and they can hardly remember what it was all about.
Well, would you carry a pizza? Just in case of depression.
We are hearing echoes of rock and roll suicide. The joys of the past are gone, and you have nothing left to live for. Will you go on living, or are you thinking of suicide?
Sit on your hands on the bus of survivors, blushing at all the Afro-sealers. Ain't that close to love? Well, ain't that close to love? Well, it ain't that Barbie doll. Her heart's been broken just like you have.
And just like rock and roll suicide, we find the answer in the pits of despair, when we realize that you're not alone, and that I had my share, I'll help you with the pain. The white kid is on the same bus of survivors with black kids, and they realize that they have something in common. They are all survivors of the 60s broken dreams, all share the same desperation. We all feel that same pain, and even that girl who looks like a Barbie doll, a symbol of perfection, is actually broken inside. And this common ground enables us to find a new sense of camaraderie and love, which can be the basis for a new, joyful existence, a new answer. And with this realization, the mood of the record suddenly swings around. When the backup singers break into the chorus, they sound a lot more intense and gleeful than before.
All night, what the young American, young American, all night, you want the young American.
Bowie is singing She Wants, referring to that Barbie doll, but then the backup singers interject, turning it into You Want, and Bowie chimes in. You, the listener, are part of this story, and you want to come with us on this new ride. From here on to the end of the record, Bowie is carried on the wings of this newfound feeling of unity, playing a gospel call and response with his choir to soar to ecstatic heights, and take us along.
You ain't a pimp, you ain't a horse, a pimp's got a canyon, a lady got a Chrysler, red's got the spectrum, white's got a soul train, mama's got cramps, and look at your handshake. I heard the news today, oh boy.
These lines are meant to reinstill a sense of self-respect in the minds of the listeners. Yes, we are down, but we are not out. We are not pimps and hustlers, and we do not judge ourselves by material goods like they do. We have other riches, other things to be proud of. The 60s revolution may have failed, but we still got some things done. Blacks do have more respect and are regarded as equal humans, and in turn they enrich us with their soul music, which can take us elsewhere. On this basis, youth can once again form a culture that will make mama ill, and open a new generation gap. In 1972, Bowie sang All the Young Dudes Carry the News, talking about how the young kids are the ones who convey the spirit of the time. He goes back to the news theme here, but he connects it to the Beatles' A Day in the Life, a record that expresses the ultimate enlightenment that can be achieved in some moments of your daily life. So we are still in the frame of a life that is lived as separate moments, hopping from one experience to the next, but the current experience is no longer meaningless. It is the news, the deepest expression of the spirit of the moment. We have left the poor boy and girl behind, wallowing in their meaningless lives, and we are riding on the soul train to a new magical land.
You got the feeling, you're the real man who can say no more. And the real woman I can suck on the jaw, and the retired I can look with that judging.
Finding this new answer, Bowie begins to call on others to join in on this merger of rock and soul, forget about their defeat, and accept the new sweet thing.
In the rebellion that will right before they die.
Connecting to the spirit of soul, Bowie expresses two of the main gospel tenets: bearing witness and testifying. Seeing the despair around him, he calls on inspiration to put a pen in his hand, a pen that will document it before all these people fade away and no one will be able to understand what they went through. But gospel has a third tenet: changing the situation. The gospel singer is bearing witness and testifying because they want to affect the listeners to change their ways. Similarly, Bowie wants to affect his listeners to change their ways and jump on the new rock soul train. Another interpretation of this line is that he believes that if he doesn't find the words that bring change, all these people will soon die of despair. This is the first time we encounter this theme in Bowie's art. He always regarded his job as an artist to be a mirror image of contemporary society, but here we have something else. His previous albums talked about how everything is subject to change, and that because of that we cannot understand things that happened in the past, since we are living in a different state of mind. And if that is so, it is important for an artist to document what is going on around him, so that it will not be lost. We will encounter this theme again in later albums, and when we do, we must remember that this conviction was born out of the gospel sensibility, and that he does it not merely to document a situation for posterity, but also because he wants to affect change.
Ain't you proud that you struck our faces? Ain't there one damn song that can make me break down and cry?
Youth culture is a musical culture, so a revival of its spirit will be a revival of its music. How do we know that we found the right answer, the right musical synthesis? If the songs we hear from now on will touch us deep inside, so deep that they will make us break down and cry, like rock and soul records used to do. Like the heroes at the beginning of the record, Bowie wants the young American. But it is a different kind of want. It is not just sexual desire for one person's body. He wants all young Americans, and he wants them to join him in a new spiritual venture. He knows that it is still going to be temporary, just for one night, figuratively speaking, as even something that is real doesn't last, but this night will be meaningful. From here to the end of the record, Bowie ad-libs, immersing himself in the ecstasy of the newfound experience, rapping about everyone coming together and sharing the same feeling. Out of the quagmire of the mid-70s, Bowie emerges with a new answer. The beginning of this opening track is still deep in depression, but by the end, he has already found a new sensibility that will revive us. The rest of the album will have to expand it.